I'm going to be doing a different kind of video today where I take on an entirely new format. You're going to have to let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. So kicking things off, today I'm reviewing the Audio First Cadentia 3. This speaker was loaned to me by the manufacturer to review. This speaker can be ordered as a kit or as a complete. Now, right now, the complete will not be available until mid-February, according to the website, and the kit will not be available until around March, again, according to the website. Approximate prices as of today are €47.33 for the complete, or $56.60 US dollars for the pair, or in euro for the kit, $24.83. Converted to US dollars, that's $29.70. The pair that was loaned to me is in kit form, so the cabinet is unfinished. If you order the complete, it will be finished in an oak veneer. This is a three-way bass reflex design with a 1.1-inch Techstream tweeter, a 4.5-inch Techstream mid-range, and a 9-inch woofer. It's a rather large speaker, especially for a bookshelf size, so make sure you have a stand that is capable of supporting a larger monitor-sized speaker.
Keep in mind that whatever I'm about to tell you is based on two things: the room and the speakers, and then whatever my brain thinks is going on. So three things. Now, my room is certainly different from your room. You can see this large kitchen space behind me. It's a very large open floor plan. I have a hallway going down that way. If you want to see some behind the scenes photos of my listening space, I will have those on Patreon. The first track is I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. It's obvious to me that these speakers are very low in compression and distortion. So how do I know that from this track? Well, first of all, the snare. If it sounds like that rim shot doesn't have the same bite to it at higher levels as it does at lower levels, then we know that something is going on in terms of compression. I'm not hearing any of that. What I'm hearing is there's still significant bite and dynamicism at low volume as there is high volume. Now, in terms of distortion, I'm particularly listening for mid-range distortion. So as I increase the volume on this track, the mid-range gets louder, but it still sounds full. It doesn't sound grainy or compressed, and that's an indication that the distortion on these speakers is really low. Next up is Chasing Pirates by Norah Jones. I'm listening for a couple things here too. One is I'm listening for the buzzing of an amplifier at the beginning of this track on the left. So whatever guitar amplifier they're using, you can definitely hear some sort of buzzing going on. Another thing I'm listening for is some bubbles. There's some bubbles in this track, and it certainly sounds like bubbles, and they're popping. So you want to hear the pop of those bubbles. There's some dynamicism to it. All right, so beginning of this track, definitely notice the buzzing on the left side, so that's a good thing. I also notice the bubble popping sound, and that also tracks well with what I expect. In this track, she says, in a message you said you were going to bed, but I'm not done with the night. When she says night, there is some sibilance to her vocal, and she says night. Now, that is also baked into the track, but I'm noticing it on these speakers maybe just a smidge bit more than I might before. The other thing that I do like about these speakers is the background vocal on the left has more emphasis in night as well than the one on the right. So you'll hear that background vocal outside of the soundstage as I do on these speakers. If you have narrow radiating speakers, you're going to hear it more closer to the speaker. With these speakers, they tend to have a wider soundstage because I'm hearing things jump outside of the speakers by a good bit. Another track I'm going to be listening to is Waiting by Norah Jones on the Fall album. It's the same album. The reason I like this track is there's a big sense of space in this particular recording. Now, I don't know the room that it was recorded in, but I certainly know that the sense of space that you get in this recording is large. Now, that's baked into the recording. The speakers you use are going to have their own radiation characteristics where they may radiate into a wide space and other speakers may radiate more narrowly. If you are listening to speakers that are more narrow, you won't have quite the sense of envelopment as you do with speakers that radiate more widely. So I'm going to listen for that aspect with this song. All right, when the dual guitars kick up, it's big space, okay? When she comes in and starts singing, big space. So I really like that aspect of these speakers. It's a big, wide, enveloping sound from these speakers. The last track that I'm going to be talking about is Wanna Be Starting Something by Michael Jackson off the Thriller album. One thing I'm going to be listening to is a click-clack type of sound around the 35-second mark. And it'll be on the right-hand side of the soundstage, and it should be outside of your speakers at least a little bit. If it's inside, then maybe your speakers don't have wide radiation. The other aspect to listen to, though, is how detailed is that sound. If you can barely hear it and you're only noticing it because I'm telling you to listen for it, then your speakers probably just aren't resolving enough. Now, I tend to find that that's not necessarily a balance issue in terms of, hey, maybe it's too much treble or not enough treble or something along those lines. What I tend to find is it's a balance issue in regards to the overall tonal balance of the speaker, meaning how accurate is the response of those speakers. If the response deviates all over the place, picking out those subtle details, especially of a sound that has a wide range of frequencies, is going to be harder to tell. Maybe one particular aspect of that sound is going to jump out at you, but maybe a lower frequency aspect of that sound is going to stay more subdued. So you're looking for something that's pretty neutral, and you're looking for the ability to pick out that sound without it jumping out at you, okay? All right, yeah, it's definitely there, and it's outside of the speaker. I would say that, and from where I'm telling, this speaker is probably at least 60 degrees wide, if not 70. It sounds a little bit wider than what I'm normally used to, which is okay. You know, it depends on your room and your preference, and that's fine. The balance of that sound is very clear and very easy to hear. The best I've heard that sound is on a set of KEF Blade 2 Metas, but I say that these speakers do a very good job of resolving that, and it wouldn't be an issue for me to own these speakers and hear them at that kind of detail. Now what I want to listen for is the shaker in this track. Does the shaker have a lot of air to it, or is it too bright, or is it more subdued? What does that sound like? To me, the shaker sounds pretty balanced, but I will say that it sounds like it needs a little bit more air. Now you want to listen to that shaker solo, or essentially solo, toward the beginning of the track. Once you get into the meat of the track, it's going to be overridden by so much else that it'll be harder to tell. So in the beginning of the track, if that shaker sounds like it has air to it, then your speakers are doing a pretty good job in that regard. The other thing I like to use this track for is mid-bass. These speakers do a very good job of having that attack of the mid-bass. Very, very punchy at about 50 hertz, but I will say that it sounds like it kind of rolls off below that, so I'm probably getting to about like the mid-40s or so in my room. In the beginning of this track at around 10 seconds or so, there's some hand claps that come in. I'm listening for those hand claps to be sharp and distinct, but not too much in your face. So that's part of the dynamicism that I'm listening for. Is there attack? Is there clarity? Is there detail in that particular region? So with these speakers, what I'm noticing is there's not enough lift in that particular area. In that regard, they sound like they maybe have a mild scoop through the upper mid-range or lower treble region.
Now you've heard all my subjective assessment, and what I want to do, instead of showing you the data for just the speaker, I'm going to do some comparisons. So here I'm showing you the Audio First Cadentia 3, the MoFi Source Point 10 in the middle, and then the Arendal 1528-8 monitor on the far right. First thing we're going to look at is frequency response. What's the sensitivity of the Audio First? Around 86.4 decibels. The F3 is showing at 43 hertz. F10 is at 26 hertz. I talked about in my subjective impressions that it sounded like it got down to around 40 to 50 hertz, somewhere in that area. There was a really strong guttural bass punch. You can see the overall linearity of the speaker is really, really good. But see this dip right through here? I'm certain that this aligns to what I heard, because I was just missing the percussive attack of snares, of hand claps. Saxes didn't really have the bite that I was looking for. Personally, what I would recommend with this speaker, if you are like me and you want something that has just a little bit more bite than what these speakers are going to give you on their own, use this EQ. It's just one single band. I'm trying to make this as super simple as I possibly can. Set to 2.5 kilohertz plus 1 dB with a Q of about 1. What that will do is it will take the original response in red and increase this till you get to the green and give you a little bit more snap, a little bit more detail, and a little bit more dynamicism from these speakers. Now, if we compare this to the MoFi, you can see that the MoFi has a more ragged anechoic response, but it has higher sensitivity. It has about 3 decibels higher sensitivity than the Audio First. Its bass is not as deep, F3 of 56, F10 of 40 hertz. So once it starts rolling off down to about 50 hertz or so, it's going to roll off a little bit more quickly than you do with the Audio First. If we look at the Arendal 1528-8 monitor, we can see that the sensitivity is a smidge lower than what I have on the Audio First, with the MoFi still being better than the others. The F3 is at 46 hertz and the F10 is at 30 hertz. But you can see that the Arendal has a significant dip in the lower mid-range. So what that's going to do is that's going to take out a lot of chestiness that should be there. Now, chestiness can be a bad thing if there's too much of it, and it can really light up the room. But you really should have a more neutral response through this area, because it can make vocals sound pretty thin, especially for male vocals. Going higher up in frequency response, we can see some jaggedness. So the Audio First has a better overall neutrality. Now let's talk about the spinorama data. Audio First, this thing looks practically textbook. Great on axis, great listening window. Again, dip through the upper mid range, but other than that, this looks really darn good. We can also see there is some roll off in the high frequency. Now, with cymbals and snares, you're going to notice maybe a little bit less air. If you're listening to these directly on axis, it's going to be less of an issue. When I was listening to them, I wound up settling on about 5 or so degree, kind of toed out, pointing over my shoulder. That, for me, in my room, gave me the best blend of accuracy and some soundstage width that I was looking for. The interesting thing is that this speaker narrows up in the higher frequency pretty quickly. So when we look at the estimated interim response in a minute, you're going to see that the high frequency starts to dovetail pretty quickly. The directivity also looks really good with this speaker. If we look at the MoFi Source Point 10 Master Edition, we see that the directivity in general kind of has a more linear slope than if I go back to the Audio First. So the Audio First kind of has a step. It's increasing steps right around 450 hertz, increasing a little mild step here around 1K, gets to around 3K or so, and then starts to step up again. Whereas the MoFi just kind of keeps a general trend throughout, indicating that it has a more uniform dispersion pattern horizontally and vertically. And then if we look at the Arendal, we can see that there is a dip in the directivity around 1.5K to 2K or so. Now that lines up with this peak right here in the sound power in this red. And there's a dip on axis relative to the listening window. So there's some sort of anomaly going on off axis with this particular speaker. Horizontal contour plot with the Audio First Cadentia 3, really wide through the mid-range. You're at about plus or minus 70 degrees. So that explains why it sounded like this speaker was radiating pretty darn wide in my room. And if I towed it straight out into the room, I lost too much high frequency detail, but it was also just a little bit too unfocused. And I think that also jives with what I'm seeing here. I also want to note the high frequency, let's say above about maybe 4K or so in this particular area. It starts to narrow up pretty quickly. Keep that in mind. We go to the Source Point Master 10. Now this right here is an on-axis symmetry notch. So I'm not too worried about that. Tow the speaker out just a little bit and you'll be fine. The radiation pattern of this speaker is about plus or minus 50, maybe plus or minus 60 at some spots. But on average, it's not quite as wide as the Audio First. And then if we look at the Arendal, we can see that there is some ballooning going on that the MoFi and the Audio First do not have. So what this means is that the Arendal speaker is probably going to be best served by using some absorption on the sidewall to catch this extra energy around 2K and make it blend more neutrally through the upper mid-range. Now, if we look at vertical response, where do your ears need to be seated? Now, these are all measurements related to the tweeter level. So the tweeter level will be 0 degrees. You can see if you go above about, I'd say 10 degrees or so, you're entering in some pretty rough territory on the Audio First. Make sure that your ears are on axis with that tweeter. If we look at the MoFi, this is kind of what you expect because it's a good coaxial driver. So you have a pretty broad range at about plus or minus 50. Again, it matches very closely to the horizontal dispersion. And then if we go to the Arendal, we see it has some interesting things going on, especially in the upper mid-range, lower treble region. So you've got some comb filtering or lobing effects going on right here around 2.5K. This speaker was tested between the tweeter and the mid-range. So right in that little area, right down here in the bottom left where I'm pointing my finger to, or pointing the mouse to, I should say. Then if we overlay the estimated in-room response, this gives you a really good idea of the overall tonality that you're gonna have in your room in a typical reflected room. So if we start off with the MoFi with a higher sensitivity here in blue, you can see that it has some jagged lines and things like that. So it's not quite as neutral as the Audio First Cadentia 3, which overall looks pretty darn good. But I do want to note that if you're just kind of drawing a straight line through this region, you're going to notice that there's a little bit of a dip in the upper mid-range, rebounded by a little bit of a peak in the lower treble or treble region. So this is what I really want to point out. Now, in my initial listening, I caught this more from sibilance. When I went back and did further listening, like a month later, I noticed more that there was a scoop in the upper mid-range. So you might notice that it sounds more sibilant, or you might notice that it sounds like it doesn't quite have the attack or the dynamicism in the upper mid-range. Both of those are valid, but it depends on how you are listening and what you're listening for, okay? Then we look at the Arendal, lower sensitivity overall and less linear behavior. Now let's look at multitone distortion. Multitone distortion for the Audio First looks really, really good. Super low through the mid-range. That explains why I didn't have any complaints about turning these speakers up to high output levels. No problem. The MoFi, it has higher distortion levels than the Audio First, but honestly, at about -30, that's tolerable. It's when you start getting above -30 that, for me, it becomes more of an issue. Now, if we flip to the Arendal has even lower distortion than the Audio First, except for maybe like a couple spots here or there. That is what you're getting with the Arendal. You're getting lower distortion than the other two speakers that we looked at. So even though it has poorer accuracy in terms of frequency response, and it has poorer accuracy in terms of directivity, you're gaining a speaker that has even better distortion metrics. Compression for the Audio First, wonderful. For the MoFi, still really good within about half a decibel, even at 102 decibels. And then for the Arendal, so overall, my opinion on the Audio First, very good speaker. Only a couple little minor nitpicks, but if I weren't nitpicking speakers, then I would suck as a reviewer, okay? So I've got to give you some things to look out for and things to keep in mind. With that said, I hope you appreciate the review. And if you like this new format, please let me know, because if you don't, then I'm not going to spend my time. It costs me twice as much time to do this because I film downstairs and then I film upstairs, and it's twice as much editing. But I kind of like doing this, and I hope that you do too. If you'd like to support this channel, you could do so one of two ways. You can join me at patreon.com/Erin's Audio Corner, where you get behind the scenes information. You can vote for new ideas, new videos. You can give me comments. You can see some of my rants when I suck at stuff, which happens a lot more than I'd like it to, but hey, such is life. You can also join me or use my affiliate links, and they're all generic in the comment section below. If you want to buy something from Amazon or Crutchfield or Audio Advice or Best Buy or Target, wherever, no matter what it is, just click those generic affiliate links. It'll take you to the page, and then you buy whatever it is that you want to buy. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it earns me a small commission. And that's how I'm able to afford literally the lights here and the lights downstairs that I had to buy, and the second camera that I had to buy for downstairs to see if all the stuff was working. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying that's where the money goes for this channel, and I really appreciate your help with that. I will talk to y'all later. Take care. Peace.